Well, hello guys. This is episode 20 of the Football Truth podcast. I'm happy to have on Caleb Drebeck. He's been inside our group, the Entangled Tribe, for almost a year now, I believe. And he has an amazing story, basically rags to riches in terms of physical ailments and ability on the football pitch and off the football pitch in terms of his health. And now he's playing at a Division II school, I believe, on scholarship, and he's having a really good time. And he's about to enter his third year, right?
Yes, junior year academically, but my first year of playing college soccer. It's actually been quite a while since I played on a club team. I haven't played on a club team since my junior year of high school. So,
Okay, awesome. Well, first, I suggest why don't just some backstory. Why don't you tell guys how you found a football entangled in the first place, and like what even caused you to look for new information? What kind of problems were you dealing with that that moved you to look for other sources of information?
so being coming off of an autoimmune disorder and kind of getting in the healing process. I was really like cognitively impaired, and my footballing ability went completely down, and I had to move back from Atlanta, where I played for Atlanta United's academy, and I had lots of problems. And so I started healing, doing like alternative protocol, and I noticed like, okay, like I'm starting to enjoy soccer a little more, getting a little bit back to where I used to be. And then I'm like, I am like 19 years old, and I am not on a team, and I need to do something really quickly to get back into my, you have a small window, right?
Yeah.
So then I was searching, on like I scroll through Instagram, and then I found like a lot of gym pages, of lifting weights and how to kind of like get your body ready and get stronger and faster. And so I did and then I found this program that was, I'm not going to mention it, but it was like I joined a 6-month program, spent like $700 on it, and it just left me more fatigued and more like inflamed. Like I actually my symptoms from my autoimmune disorder got worse. I think because you're putting so much stress on your body, and like neurologically, your brain can't handle all of that while it's like dealing with signals from your brain from the autoimmune disorder, because my autoimmune disorder was PANDAS. It's an acronym. It stands for Pediatric Autoimmune Neuropsychiatric Disorder Associated with Strep. So what that is it's I caught strep throat when I was 12 years old. When I moved to Atlanta and I had lots of stress, and I was like the first player from Savannah to do it, and the youngest host player at Atlanta United's academy. This is during their inaugural year in 2017. And so I was just like, man, like, I had a lot of stress, but I was managing, and still I was doing really well. And then a few months after I caught strep, I started showing signs of OCD, and I was like, rereading things. And then I started like, having tick disorder, and I started having just like insane anxiety attacks, and I started showing a lot less confidence on the field. And that's when I went from like, someone who my coach and a lot of the coaches at the time said I was like top 5 on the team and one of the best players in the country. There were lots of coaches, talking about me along the East Coast. And then I went from that to like someone who rarely got playing time. And it, lots of implications with just watching me fall off so hard. I had no idea what was going on. I just thought I was getting lazy, and it was actually kind of mentally torturing. And then so I had to move back to Savannah, and that's at the same time my dad got cancer, pancreatic cancer. He actually had he developed stage 4 neuroendocrine pancreatic cancer. And the thing with that is it's a neuroendocrine, so it's not like the kind of cancer where you die like within 3 months if it's in stage 4. And so it was just a lot of added stress. And then I found some lady at my church mentioned Amen Clinic, which is a clinic in Atlanta. And the problem was before that, I was just constantly doing things like just typical medication and, therapy. Um, and it wasn't working out for me because I was in such a diseased state that my mind couldn't handle any therapy. Like, I had such severe OCD that I had to drop out of school. I had
Mm,
to leave my high school. I didn't drop out, but I was on like hospitalization, so they had to give me like less, a lot less work. I was on. I had to quit soccer my junior year for my high school and my club. Um, yeah, everything was just spiraling downwards, and then yeah, mainstream protocol did nothing for me. It actually made me worse because I wasn't on the correct medication, because they didn't
yeah.
scan my brain. They just like, okay, your brother has it worked, with his generalized anxiety disorder. This medication worked. Okay, this works for you. Made me worse. Jumped from medication to medication to medication. Nothing got better, and so then I, found out about Amen Clinic. I got my brain scan, hormone, my blood levels tested. I got just pretty much the addressed like where exactly everything was wrong. And then from there, I start taking, a more alternative protocol. I found a great doctor and I start healing a little bit,
Mm,
slowly, but I'm heading in the right direction. And then I start getting my life back together. I go back into playing soccer at high school, my senior year. I had it was still rough and I had to play with lots of OCD symptoms and, fatigue and everything. And then that's about when, once I went to college. I wasn't really looking to play college. But as far as football entangled comes, I found about football entangled, at a time where I kind of plateaued in my healing from the alternative
mm,
um, protocol because, supplements and IV therapy, and I'll just say this out loud, but I took peptide, therapy. I took peptide shots, subcutaneous
mm.
peptide shots to get my levels back to baseline. It wasn't like it was used as a medication. It wasn't used as an enhancer in any way.
Enhancement, yeah.
So that helped out a lot, but I only got so far. Um, and then once I found out about football entangled, I remember like scrolling on Instagram and reading, your work and everything. And I'm like, this literally is the next step to how I'm going to recover and get back my career. And I was like almost in tears when I found out this because I was like, this is it. I was like, this God put this in my life, and I, the rest is history. Like the last 10 months, or even like, sorry, no, the last year, I've just been doing this stuff, and like I'm just playing completely differently. Like I'm moving effortlessly. I don't get tired.
Mm,
I'm even starting to share it with. I've been sharing it with my family, and my whole fridge looks completely different. My dad is like starting to. He's a little. He's really kind of slow to change, but I'm kind of telling him, I'm like, look, like it's a miracle that you're alive today, but I'm trying to tell him, I'm like, this is the next step in your recovery too, because I believe autoimmune disorders and cancer are very a lot more related than we believe. And so yeah, and it's amazing. So I thank you for it.
no, man. I mean, it's my pleasure, and I'm grateful for every footballer like you that actually takes an honest look at themselves and puts the work in and the effort and questions the things that they're told they should be doing. And both fortunately and unfortunately, usually people don't change until the pain is painful enough. Know what I mean?
Yeah,
So from what I can tell, and obviously like your journey, like you've been there, you've seen, and from what you're saying, also, it's a good point to mention for all the viewers is that like of course at first you found out the mainstream solution didn't exactly work, and then you looked at kind of like the first layer of the alternative, let's say, world. And in my opinion, a lot of those solutions are kind of the same as the mainstream, but they just throw like natural on top of it because it still has the symptoms based approach, where it's like instead of drugs, we'll just inject peptides, or instead of some other kind of medication or like therapy, we'll just use like herbs or uh, homeotherapy and some kind of approach to fix the symptoms. But like you were saying, there's a plateau where you reach, and you're like, well, like how, like when does it get better?
Hmm.
And obviously now you understand the difference. So can you tell guys like what have you changed that got you to the point that you're at now?
What have I changed? I actually have lots of in my folder with lots of pictures and videos. Do you want me to like share my screen? I could kind of
Yeah,
show
yeah,
the,
sure, man.
the viewers. Um,
You at the bottom, if you can
oh
press
yeah,
share.
share. Okay, yeah.
There
Sorry.
you go.
Uh, I'm not as cognitively fast as I want to be. I'm kind of struggling with sleep recently, so but at least the protocol helps me get through.
That's the next
Well,
step in the journey.
yeah, about this in your content a lot, but I might as well just show some of what I did, to get talented. This is me when I was probably what 10 or 11,
Uh-huh.
just on the street, just playing, like just doing fast footwork and
Yeah,
touching the ball,
maximal intent solo
maximal
work.
intent. Yeah,
And the cool thing about this is you're not really like thinking about it. It's just more of a free flow, right?
of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the magic is where you tap into the no mind as opposed to the mindful.
I guess I can't show
Yeah.
everything, but I'll.
Keep
This is
going.
just me. The thing just kind of the camera flips, but this is just me playing barefoot in my basement. Um, or not, but sorry, this is my host family's basement. 12 years old. This is like stuff that I did all the time. I was homeschooled, so I was always kicking the ball around the house.
Uh-huh.
And then like every lunch break, I would I would go outside and play soccer. It was actually like it got to the point where it was very obsessive, and that kind of led to my downfall because I think I overworked my body. Like I moved too fast. I I think that kind of led up to my autoimmune disorders because I didn't recover properly. I did so much, but I wasn't like and
Mm,
like I would play to music and everything. My dad's a drummer, so I think I get a lot of it from him.
yeah.
Like the rhythm. My parents didn't play soccer, but I just kind of picked it up when I was 2 years old, and then started playing like. This is me when I was like 10 years old or 11.
Yeah. Not bad. Would you say there's a point that you stopped playing other sports?
Um, as you've mentioned lots of times, you want to expand your vocabulary, and that was where I kind of went wrong. I believe was I didn't completely. Um, I played too much soccer. I didn't play enough of other sports, and so I think that led to like being my body being too stressed out is because I was so obsessed about soccer that I never like I was overworking the same muscles.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's the muscles, but also even just like the nervous system and some of the
Hmm.
postural things that you can create from going so deep into one specific pattern of movement, especially early in life. Like some of these kids that become famous on social media when they're like 6, 7 years old, and they're kids that do drills or stuff in the backyard. Like you can notice after like a year or two, their posture is so bent over and hunched and in this like protective state. It's basically like a sympathetic state. They're not able to relax, and like you're saying, it can lead to some really obsessive habits.
Yeah, no, you're right on the money with that. I'm gonna get to that really soon in the folder with
Yeah, yeah.
some more kind of theories I have about fascia within autoimmune disorders, but I guess I'll just show some natural molding and fascial, dominance when I was younger. I mean, this is what made me one of like the best players, like on the East Coast. Was like you can see like how back chain dominant I was. This is 11 years old. There's the back chain, and then this is me playing barefoot on like a playground. You can see the ball of the foot's puffing out. Very lean and slender. I mean, this is my brother. I would play. He's 2 years older than me. He was also a really incredible soccer player, and we would just spar on the front yard, at lunch break because we were both homeschooled, and he was, playing against someone who's 2 years older than you it was a great challenge. This was me. My skin was really clear. And I had, good facial development. My nose wasn't inflamed, and my jawline was very prominent for someone this young. And then you can just see here, look at the feet and the hands and everything. As far as just the molding, and I was just absorbing talent. I guess is what you say. Always, it was very obvious what was happening. Ball of the foot puffing out, just very like slender.
Well, like one
Uh,
of the big things that like you can look at in these photos is the quality of the muscle, and how the like how muscle and like natural athletes and like young kids that maybe have like a good base, we can say the muscle is more stringy. It's like relaxed and long. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you can look at like bodybuilders and see that they're, even though the muscles are big, the muscle itself is so contracted and short. It doesn't have the ability to let go, and the blood flow is almost like constricted. So that's one of the
oh,
things.
you'll see what happened after my gym program. It's actually crazy the difference. Like
All
this is
right.
why I have all these folders, is because like it's so clear what's happening. This is me on WT, my local news. When I went to Atlanta right before I left. Um, I won like best local athlete of Savannah, and Savannah's not like, it's not like a small city. It's like well, I mean, it's not a small town. It's like a smaller to medium sized city, so it's not necessarily an easy thing. This is me when I was like 10. Obviously I was in my columns. You can see like
Mhm.
my posture was great. Because after I got sick, I was always outside of my columns. We'll see that later. One second. And then, oh yeah, big thing is I always had lots of room in my mouth when I was younger. Um, See, like even compared to my brothers, like I had extra room in my mouth.
Mhm.
And that, the tongue being
Like
one of
your
the
jaw,
catalysts.
is much more developed there, like wider.
Yeah. This is, running in spiral movement, right? I was at camp running
There you
around. Um, Spiral. See, the hips are able to twist,
go.
right?
Yeah,
So my stride length is longer. Um, Spiral.
yeah. Nice.
Um, Jawline, right? This is like, I see these. It was so funny looking back on like my mom's computer and finding these pictures, because it was like, it was just like so like clearly evident. I was like, you see
Obvious.
like the tongue, where the tongue posture is when I was like 4 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like I was mewing before I even knew what it was.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's how we were developed to be. Meant to
Exactly.
be.
I was very happy, intelligent, and then everything kind of just went downhill so quickly. What's it called? Let's go back. Okay, so there was natural molding and evidence. Okay, what went wrong? Let's see. This I would do lots of lots of cone drills. And like, look, I'm taking so many extra steps that I don't need to take, and that's
Yeah.
stressing my body out. And I thought like, oh, I'm moving faster, so I'm doing something good. And everyone would say like, oh wow, you're so fast, like you can go through the cone so quickly. So it kind of like it had made this false sense of confidence.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
it's an illusion. because basically the cones put you into a mental sandbox and constrict what your imagination can think is possible.
Exactly, right?
So
Here's me on the ladder. This I did this
there you
way
go.
too much, and this would screw my athleticism up.
Yeah,
See, that's like I'm just ruining athleticism in clear in broad daylight. Like
yeah. The
I'm just
posture.
putting way too much stress on my body.
And the funny thing is, like, when do you actually do those movements in the sport? You know.
The thing is I had the really good quick feet on the ball, so I thought the ladder was helping me, move quicker on the ball, but in reality it was just if you like go to that video in slow-mo, it's just me like all my force absorption was so incorrect. Like you could see I was not spiraling I was using my quads more and then you could kind of start seeing my quads kind of getting bigger around like age 12, 13. Um, and then this was yeah, like seed oil salad. Got some Thousand Island dressing on it. See, I even knew something was wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing is uh, kind of the idea that parents have a hard time like feeding vegetables to young kids
Yes.
because like it is gross because yeah, it's because the young kids their gut instinct, their gut in their uh, digestive system intuitively knows that like this stuff is not meant to be eaten. I don't like it. I don't want it. You know what I mean? And it's funny how when you look back or look to the younger people that have less conditioning, less brainwashing, and more of like a blank slate, then you can really see a lot of the truth.
Yeah, like I don't have salad anymore. I literally just drink my celery juice. Like it hydrates me so well and it's everything I need, I feel like, as far as greens go. And I still have like roughage as far as like kimchi and sauerkraut and fermented foods, but I don't really like I don't want salad, like kale or any of that. Um
Hmm.
and then, 6 inches bracing the core, right? It's not good. And then it started getting really bad. Like after I left Atlanta, I picked up brain damage at a game conditions. Like all my brain fog was even worse. You could see this is kind of like right after it happened. And
So that wasn't the start of the autoimmune disorder.
no,
So
I'll show you it. Uh, yeah, no, I'll show you where like in one of the next folders. I'm rolling out my right foot right now. It's really bad, but I'm almost done. And you can see how like it's red at this toe, and I'm not even like touching that. So like I have a terrible adhesion between my big two toes, and I'm just standing on marbles, and it's just amazing. Like the entire sensation shoots up your inside of your leg to your pelvic floor area, and you notice like more blood flow and everything, all because I've had these deep lying adhesions that I've never addressed. And I believe I picked this up when I was like 11 or so, and I never got it addressed. But yeah, let's go to,
yeah.
let's see, what highlights before. Okay, so aftermath of sickness and poor lifestyle. This is where we're going to start seeing the autoimmune. This is 15 years old. My face was like incredibly inflamed. My nose, sorry, like my nose was more crooked, my face was inflamed, I had dark bags under my eyes.
Yeah. Even your
Everything.
cheeks, like your cheeks look more puffy.
Oh yeah, everything was puffy. Let's go to this one. This is me next to my brother. I can use him as a good example. So look at him, right? He's like a model. They would call him Timothy Chalamet in high school. And then there's me. I look like I thought I was getting fat, and I wasn't. I literally was not getting fat. I was just inflamed to like I was so inflamed. It was bad. See,
Yeah.
look at the legs, right? Like then I started noticing like my quads started blowing up. This is why I believe like the fascia, like when you have an autoimmune disorder, I believe it kills your fascial system. Then that's when, like after 13 years old, when I started showing symptoms, that's when I started noticing in like muscle like a lot more inflammation, but also more muscle dependency. Like my legs were getting bigger, and I was like pound for pound becoming a lot weaker. I was a lot slower. I went from like one of the fastest kids to like one of the slowest kids on my team. Um, let's see. So then I started eating more inflammatory carbs and quick sugars, and then it was a downhill spiral. The the quads again, like compared to my brothers,
Mhm.
it's like I wasn't even in the gym at this time, and it was like getting big. So, and one thing I have noticed is doing the training your fascial system. I've noticed a lot more relaxation in my body, and it helped me with like someone with somatic OCD and an autoimmune disorder. It helped me relax, and my symptoms went down, even after like I was completely finished with protocol as far as from my alternative doctor.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, I would love to see how you do on some of the new peak harmony training that we're talking about in the inside the a group now, as far as the nervous system and getting deeper into your parasympathetics.
it's amazing. Like I can finally like relax my muscles and like
Mm-hmm.
even this is gonna sound crazy, but even like my intrusive thoughts that. So the thing with your my autoimmune disorder is pandas, right? It causes OCD symptoms and tic disorder, and everything's like somatic about it. It's like it feels like my brain is shooting signals to the rest of my body, and it makes me stressed. And my first symptoms, or my first intrusive thoughts were like, oh, my leg feels tired, I have to roll it out, or oh, my, I'm not going to run as fast and everything. And so everything's coming full circle with finding out about, with learning out about football entangled in your work. So let's see. Posture is terrible. This is like 17 years old. See, like I'm bent over. My jaw is
Mm-hmm.
non-existent. See, there's no tendon definition here. I'm just
Yeah.
kind of like a slab. I just feel like my it's just bones and muscles, no tendons, no fascia. It's all dead. um,
Mm-hmm. Well, so can we talk about how this all started?
how how did I catch my autoimmune disorder?
Well, I normally don't use the terminology of catch because it kind of infers that
You're correct. Yeah,
of
it's
like
a
a
whole
pathology
lifestyle leading up to it.
like theory, but like usually there's a cause somewhere,
Right.
and um, maybe a better question would be like when you finally started doing things like the morning sunlight and grounding and mitigating your exposure to non-native EMF and like blue light at night. How did that affect your symptoms?
My symptoms are very deep. It's the best way of describing it. It's like my brain was so inflamed. It would send signals. My brain would involuntarily send signals of discomfort to the rest of my body.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would have a stressful reaction to it. I'd be like, my brain would send a signal, usually like to my some area like in my back chain, like my glutes or
Mm-hmm.
my lower back or something like that. And what would happen would I'd feel tense, and then I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I don't feel tense, like, or sorry, I don't feel relaxed. I need to relax myself. And I'm not going to be able to control the ball as well. I'm not going to be able to run as fast. And so what would happen is I'd start stressing out about it. And then the OCD kind of would manifest as far as like, I need to do a compulsion to get better.
Mm-hmm.
It's very weird, and lots of research has to be done about it. But as far as changing my lifestyle with blue light blocking glasses and eating better and getting sunlight, I just noticed fewer intrusive thoughts. I've noticed an incredible ability to relax under pressure. My biggest problem was like when I got sick and inflamed, I would kind of like get really anxious on the field, and I would lose the ball in situations where I should have just been relaxed, you know. And so the biggest thing with the work that I've been doing is I'm just able to relax under pressure. Like I feel like I can stop in the middle of the game and just like take a deep breath and then have defenders come at me and then just go around them. It's all
Yeah.
neurological change. It's amazing.
Yeah, the reason I mention it is because I've seen lots of research about you like purely sunlight and grounding and less fluoride and some of the other basic things about not getting certain toxins into your system, curing lots of different autoimmune disorders entirely. So uh, obviously, like where you live, you don't have access to like a to that kind of like climate, I believe. So it's not as easy to I guess test on yourself. But that's
As far as what kind of climate?
well. So like I'm saying, for example, like people have fixed these kind of disorders almost entirely going by just going on the beach all day.
I can do that in the summer.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Like people in Rio de Janeiro or near the
Well,
equator.
well, well, no, I mean even just like Florida, California, Mexico, Texas, places
I'm
where
in Savannah, Georgia, so it's sunny down here. It's hot.
well, I mean my challenge for you is I would like to see like your skin tone to be one or two shades darker, and to build and, and to build some more and to build some more like melanin in your system and see how that kind of affects your baseline.
Here, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Um, I had a septoplasty in on May 31st, and I have been actually like really out of the loop for the last 2 months. I've been dealing with lots of like getting off of the drugs and taking antibiotics has been a little rough on my system. Um, and I have not been in my last like the past 10 months before that. I was making amazing strides. The last 2 months though, I've been kind of like in my house all day and everything and just kind of sitting down and not doing much because my body's going through so much change from the septoplasty. And I'm the biggest thing though is I'm losing a lot of sleep because of stress, personal stress and family stress. My dad just got back from it's amazing because what happened was he goes to New Orleans to get treatment and for his cancer. It's the only place he can get, or it's one of two places he can get treatment. And so we decide, to make the 10-hour drive.
Mhm.
And I one day he all the doctors say like he's not going to make it, and so we had to go up to New Orleans and visit him for the last time. But a miracle happened, and he's back in Savannah. So there's a lot of stuff going on with my family that's kind of keeping me from
Of
getting
course.
sleep. So I know what you're saying. Like I might not look as good as I'm kind of hyping myself up to be, but I think once this stress gets resolved, which it is, I'm turning a good corner. I believe I'm just going to skyrocket. And I do have, before and after pictures. I could show you of where I took some footage of right before I took my surgery and just show you kind of how my skin tone was. Um, let's see. Here's a picture of me. It's not the best lighting, but this is me like right before my septoplasty. So like a little over 2 months ago. Like my skin was it was a lot darker than it is now. I was in the sun quite a bit. You can see how I'm able to like relax my upper body and my columns more, and my quads are a lot smaller than they used to be as compared to this, right? This was right after I ended my gym program. This was last July. My
Okay.
whole upper body was a lot more tense. My abs were a lot like wider, from all the core work. My quads were giant. I was outside of my columns because I still had adhesions in my feet that I didn't roll out. My face was more inflamed. I didn't have as good. Um, my skin tone wasn't as good.
Hmm.
But yeah, I guess if you don't mind, maybe I could just show a few things that I did in the gym. Um,
Yeah, sure.
okay, so first off, this was actually, I'll start over here. So you can see how I'm absorbing force, right? Like my right leg wants to cave in when I'm jumping. I'm not able to. My heels are hitting the ground. See, like I'm not absorbing at the ball of my foot too well.
Yeah.
I'm pushing through my quads, not through my hips. This is sped up, by the way.
Yeah.
This is called contrast training. I'm sure you know about it, French contrast training. It's maybe the worst possible training you could do in the gym because it literally hacks your brain into saying, I need to contract muscle as much as possible. And that got me so tired because, like, then when I would run on the field, then I remember all my muscles in my quads would like contract really like exaggerated, and my glycogen reserves and they would just drain, and I couldn't run like up and down the field. Here's more contrast training. You see how you lift heavy weight, 5 or 6 reps, and then you go straight into like 10 seconds. You go into jumps, and then you add maybe a little more weight, and you do more jumps.
Yeah.
Um,
I spent like a few years doing this, so
it's
I'm
so
familiar.
incredibly bad. By far the worst thing that I could have done, and I was paying money to do it.
Yeah, that's the worst, huh?
See, look at how I'm absorbing force, right?
Yeah, very muscular driven as opposed to being more elastic.
And then,
Yeah, in that video, like your quads look huge.
oh, they were giant.
Yeah,
And then look how off balance I am here. Like, it looks like I'm gonna fall over.
yeah,
So the thing is like, people can get away with the gym more than others. With me though, I hit the gym at such a bad time because my fascial system died after pretty much was dead after I got sick, and then I went straight from that to the gym. So then I just kept using muscular, I just kept reinforcing muscle driven patterns instead of um, just like recovering fully, relaxing, and then let's say I think the gym hurts elite athletes in a different way than it does like the average person who's not fascially driven. I think elite athletes can get away with the gym as far as obviously their play level is going to go down a little bit, but not as much as like a regular person. I believe because what happens is they're already using the proper muscles, and they're using their back chain, their glutes. So when they add a little bit of weight, it's not going to like completely mess them up. I believe though they get really hurt in the injury standpoint things because their bodies are so used to putting so much force quickly using certain muscles and certain movement patterns, and
mm,
then they start changing, and then that's why we see so many like non-contact injuries, especially in the NFL where they're in the gym even more than any other sport. And with soccer or football, we're seeing like it's the injury standpoint that messes people up at the top level, in my opinion. This is so bad.
yeah. Wrong shoes for that as well.
Some of the things, this is me, I don't know how, but I was able to at least maintain at an okay level, and I was like made like the all-star team for my Sunday league, and we got to play against the local professional team. They're a third division American team, so they're in NISA. I was playing right wing, he was left back, and he was just dusting me the entire time, and I couldn't handle it. I was just chasing him the entire game, and you see like
Like the big thing on this picture is you can see his back leg is like has a bow, but it's kind of it's about to start turning into a corner, and then your back leg is just stuck, uh, going the wrong way, basically. And if you compare this picture of you to that picture of you as a kid, it's the opposite. It's the exact opposite. So, and like and like everyone watching this should know, like your nervous system is so vulnerable through childhood. So you can have so much bigger of an impact on it as opposed to training someone who's like 30 years old,
Well,
you
here's the
know?
thing. It's I was healthy from age, up until age 12. And so I got like my and I was spending hours and hours and hours each day playing soccer. So I got my 10,000 hours, let's say, before I got, before I was like 13 years old. So I spent the time playing and creating, molding my talent when I was young. And I believe there's certain ages, like if you don't get so many hours within like certain age, then it's really hard to like to kind of absorb talent because after if you look at like players, a lot of center backs, let's say, you ask them when did you start playing? Some of them stay 4, some of them stay 6, but like so you'll hear some of them say like 8 or 9, and they're still at like D1 level center back. But when you talk like to center mids and wingers and forwards, I haven't had a conversation or I haven't talked to a high level attacker or midfielder in her in which they told me that they started after like 6 years old.
Yeah.
Very vulnerable during that time. And so I believe the reason why I'm able to recover from this illness and kind of still be at a high level somewhat is because got I didn't get sick. Like if I got sick when I was like 10, it would be a completely different story because I noticed my biggest improvement as far as I went from like good to great around age 11, 12 years old is when I really stepped my game up. And that's when I moved to Atlanta. And then just playing through, um, just keep my ability to kind of just keep going, even though things weren't going my way, kept me in the game and kept me from like completely losing out. Even though I wasn't absorbing, my brain was a mess and everything, I was able to at least um, keep going. And then right as I'm getting better, then I'm like, wow, I'm glad I stuck with it, because if I quit and took like 3 years off, then I wouldn't be able to play college soccer probably, or I'd be at much lower level. So I'm very glad I kept going. It's
Well, why don't you tell us what's a resounding message that you'd like to tell anyone else in a similar situation to that you were in before, that maybe doesn't have the hope or wants to understand why they should look outside the mainstream for solutions?
science is always change. Well, we're always discovering new things.
Yeah.
And from what we know now, 5 years later might be completely different. So if you give up and just, hang the boots up, you're not giving yourself a chance to become, to fully recover and to maybe tap into the potential that you lost. And it's if I gave up, at like 15 or 16 when it was really hard for me, I wouldn't be here today playing the game I love and the game that I spent thousands of hours as a kid working my butt off to become good at. And God will send you people your way, like you, and information your way to help you get back to where you were. But one thing is you have to want it so badly. You're gonna have to like give yourself up, like all your desires and habits that are holding you back. You're gonna have to completely like just lose yourself because I had to change. I had to fight myself so hard to get back to where I am today. And I had to spend so much money, thousands and thousands of dollars as a broke college student just to eat the foods I want to eat. Because, living in America, you can't, everything has processed, seed oils, vegetable oils in it, highly inflammatory. That I noticed through my OCD experience and being hyper aware of how my body feels. What I did was I noticed how eating certain foods would make me feel poor. Whereas other people, if they don't have that heightened awareness, they're not going to really, it's just kind of going to pass through the system and do damage,
Right.
but they're not going to be able to realize it. So I've gotten to the point where I've cut out all of the the oils with the high omega 6 to 3 ratio. And what happens is if I go back and eat like a chip that has like vegetable, soybean oil
Yeah.
or something, I'll notice my skin starts to sweat. And it's not like placebo. It's what will happen is like I'll accidentally, like, I'll go to a restaurant and like eat a chip, just not really paying attention, and then I'll notice like I'm sweating. So I think what's happening is like you have to just prime your body to for success. And
Mhm.
um yeah, that's my advice is if you want it enough, you have to work smart before you work hard. You can't, if you work hard before you work smart, you're going to get yourself into a worse situation than you were before and waste lots of time and waste lots of money. That's what I did with the gym.
Yeah. One of the big things that is a big hurdle for guys to get over is that hard work does not it, more hard work does not guarantee better results. So it matters, what direction you're facing as opposed to how hard you run or how hard you sprint.
You can always run in the wrong direction.
That's most people. As a last question, just to wrap things up, what are your goals for the next 12 months? Where do you want to go?
I know my my innate ability. Like I know well, I can't say my ceiling because your ceiling can always raise, but I know that I'm capable of becoming a professional soccer player. And it's been my dream ever since I was young. And I lost the dream for a little while, but it's a little bit has always stayed within me. And it's it's still a dream of mine. And I'm not really playing. I'm not trying to become a professional soccer player just to do what I love and to get money. I'm doing it because I want to share my story with the whole world.
Yeah.
And I know how my alternative doctor is sending me patients who need help. And because he knows my story, and I've kind of told him a little bit about the work I'm doing with you. And if I can get a platform where I can speak and tell people about what I did to heal from autoimmune disorders, because there's so many people that have autoimmune disorders and they don't realize it. Like mental illness is on the rise, and it's not necessarily because of psychological problems, it's physiological problems.
Yeah,
My
of
mental
course.
illness healed because I attacked the physiological problems, and then the psychological problems kind of took care of themselves. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm playing for. I'm playing for my dad too. My dad, I believe if people kind of ate in a certain way where they didn't eat inflammatory foods and everything, then I believe cancer would be a lot less common. And so that's kind of what I'm playing for. I'm not really, I mean, of course I love soccer, but I know what I'm capable of. And I now have a confidence that I lost, but it's back. So I'm really excited for it.
Fantastic, man. I think uh, we all got into soccer, into football because we love it. And there's a point where you realize that there is more to life than just soccer and football. But it's a really profound moment when you can appreciate that soccer or a football got you there, and that there's value in the sport, and it's not just entertainment for like people on the couch. And I want to thank you, Caleb, for sharing your story. I really appreciate you coming on and being honest and being transparent. And I'm sure a lot of people across the world will benefit from this video tomorrow and this video in 5 years
Who knows?
when they find it on YouTube or Spotify, whatever. And hopefully you guys can message Caleb, or if you're a footballer, join a football entangled and work on your issues and become the player that you always wanted to be. So Caleb, where can guys find you? Like, where can they follow your story?
Um, I think, I have a YouTube channel, just my name at Caleb Drabeck. So I'm probably going to upload this footage to
Yeah.
that. And then I also have an Instagram that if it's, I'm probably not going to put so much, content on it, but at least, if they want to follow me kind of where I'm at, it's just at Caleb Drabeck. I try to keep everything simple, just my first name, last name, no spaces, no numbers. So
All right, cool. We'll have all that information in the description below the video, guys. Thank you so much. This was episode 20 of the Football Truth podcast. Thank you again, Caleb Drabeck, for coming on. My pleasure to have you on here. All the best, and we'll talk very soon, okay?
thanks so much, Taylor, for giving me this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, always.